Chapter 2645. There was no pop-up window for free reading. Second uncle. Emperor Star Maiden looked at the middle-aged man in shock as she called out to him. The middle-aged man who suddenly appeared before Wang Xian had a head of silver hair. He looked cold and had a smile on his face. The way Emperor Star Maiden addressed him made Wang Xian take a closer look at the young man before him. A fifth-order undying god king. He thought to himself. With such strength and seniority, he could be considered one of the top experts in the imperial court. Emperor Star Maiden, right? Did you guys buy the celestial slaying gourd? The middle-aged man looked at Emperor Star Maiden with a smile. Second uncle, my friend bought it. The Emperor Star Maiden looked at her second uncle with slight surprise as she spoke. She only knew that this uncle of hers had spoken less than 3 sentences to her, including what he had just said. Oh. Ask your friend if he's willing to part with it. I'll buy it at the auction price. The middle-aged man said to Emperor Star Maiden as he looked at Wang Xian. He could sense that Wang Xian was very young. As for his strength, he couldn't tell. This piqued his curiosity. Emperor Star Maiden was taken aback as she looked like she was in a difficult position. Haofeng, are you still not satisfied? At this time, a few middle-aged men flew over and spoke to the middle-aged man with smiles. The war is about to start. I have to get something to protect myself. The middle-aged man smiled faintly at them. How about this little brother? You're still young and don't need the celestial slaying gourd. If you agree, I can give you some pointers. Of course, you can also find someone stronger to guide you. The middle-aged man landed on Wang Xian and asked plainly. I'm sorry. Wang Xian shook his head. The middle-aged man frowned as he looked at Emperor Star Maiden. Given your strength, I don't think you need it. This little brother should have some background. Let's form a good relationship. He pondered for a moment before continuing. He had been longing for the celestial slaying gourd ever since he knew about it. He had obtained great opportunities and possessed a large number of divine stones. Such a powerful trump card would increase his strength by leaps and bounds. Wang Xian looked at him and shook his head. He's still a little young. This little brother shouldn't be a disciple of the imperial court. Haofeng, I think you should look for the elders of his family to trade with. When the middle-aged man saw this scene, he smiled and patted the middle-aged man on the shoulder. The silver-haired middle-aged man looked at Wang Xian coldly and nodded his head. As for threatening them here, he didn't dare to do so. The imperial court had its own rules. Looking at his cold expression, Wang Xian let out a sarcastic laugh. What a disappointment. Let's go. The silver-haired middle-aged man took a deep look at Wang Xian before speaking to his companion beside him, Di Haofeng. However, right at this moment, an incomparably chilly voice sounded out. When Di Haofeng heard this voice, he immediately frowned and looked over. When Wang Xian heard this voice, he suddenly found it extremely familiar. He looked up and saw an incredibly familiar figure. North Frost. Sister Beishuang knows my second uncle? The Emperor Star Maiden looked over, and a look of astonishment appeared on her face. Wang Xian stood there and watched with flickering eyes. Around them, some people were also attracted by this chilly voice and looked over with doubts. North Frost, you? When Di Haofeng saw North Frost's chilly gaze, his face instantly turned ugly. It's time to pay back the humiliation from 30,000 years ago. You're really good at hiding these few days. North Frost locked her chilling eyes on him as she spoke with a murderous look. North Frost, I merely asked someone to teach you a lesson more than 30,000 years ago. How could you be so petty to remember it for more than 30,000 years? I've also heard that you've obtained the cultivation method not long ago. Congratulations. Di Haofeng said in a deep voice with a sullen expression. Then you can treat me as that petty person. North Frost sneered. The next moment, she made her move. A sparring array instantly shrouded Di Haofeng. Following which, before Di Haofeng could react, North Frost had already dashed in front of him. Don't worry, I know all the rules of the imperial court. 30,000 years ago, a dignified prince like you was suppressed by me. At that time, you even wanted to propose marriage to my North Chuan sect. Hee hee, after I rejected you, you found someone to bully me when I was lonely. As a dignified prince, even a woman like me can't match your breadth of mind. North Frost grabbed his neck with her frost claws, immobilizing him. As soon as she finished her sentence, her sharp claws pierced through his shoulder. Ah, North Frost, you stop it. Di Haofeng could feel the excruciating pain on his face as he couldn't help but yell in a low voice. Stop it? North Frost's eyes were cold as she grabbed one of his arms with her frost claws. The next moment, she tore it off with her powerful strength. A painful scream was heard. Elder, save me. Di Haofeng's eyes were filled with fear as he yelled frantically. He didn't look as cool and cold as before. It's just a spar. We're from the same generation, so I won't take your life. Are you relying on your background again? North Frost stared at him disdainfully as she waved her frost claws again. Another scream was heard as a large amount of blood flowed from his body. Di Haofeng's face was extremely embarrassed. I could suppress him 30,000 years ago, and I can do the same now. North Frost stared at him coldly. All right, that's enough. The sudden eruption of sparring caused everyone in the surroundings to be slightly stunned. Everyone looked over in astonishment. When they saw Di Haofeng being abused, they were even more shocked. Their mouths were wide open. Di Haofeng was also a celebrity in the imperial court. He was the crown prince 30,000 years ago, and his strength now far surpassed those of the same generation. But now, he was being abused by a woman. An elder glanced at him and said softly with flickering eyes. North Frost heard the voice of an elder from the imperial court and spat out 2 words at Di Haofeng. Crack, crack, crack. The next moment, the frost on the frost claws that were grabbing Di Haofeng spread towards his chest. It formed 2 huge words. In particular, the 2 words were emitting a frosty glow and were exceptionally eye-catching. Seeing this, everyone was taken aback. Some of them even couldn't help but laugh out loud. North Frost waved her arm and dispelled the spar. Ah, North Frost, you're courting death. Di Haofeng looked at the 2 huge words on his chest and felt dizzy as he roared. Useless trash that only knows how to bark. North Frost waved her arm and a force landed on his chest. Di Haofeng's expression changed drastically as he retreated immediately. Haofeng. Beside him, Di Haofeng and a few others frowned and appeared behind him instantly to catch him. North Frost snorted and turned to leave. But at this moment she paused as she noticed Wang Xian. Master. Chapter 2646, Master. Bei Shuang's voice rang out. When she saw Wang Xian, she retracted her arrogance and revealed a faint smile. She flew to Wang Xian obediently and greeted him respectfully. Wang Xian looked at her and smiled faintly. What? However, at this time, the young man who was being supported by 2 middle-aged men in the air was shocked when he saw this scene. Master? That young man? His eyes widened and his face was filled with disbelief. How could this young man be Bei Shuang's master? Could this young man be the leader of Dragon Palace? Di Haofeng's face was clouded. This was something he had never expected. Yesterday, when he heard about Bei Shuang, he was slightly taken aback and immediately looked into it. In the end, he did not expect that the woman he suppressed, the woman who shone like a shooting star and fell like a shooting star, would rise again. And she was even stronger and more heaven-defying than before. She had the battle prowess of an 8th order immortal god king. But he also did not expect that the person who made Bei Shuang return to her peak was that young man. The young man who wanted to trade the immortal slaying gourd with his status and strength. Looking at the huge frost-covered words in front of him, his face turned ugly. That Bei Shuang is so powerful? She was a genius from 30,000 years ago and suppressed every one of her generation in the Imperial Star Domain. Didn't she die? She went quiet because she had no way to cultivate. I heard that she found a master in the past 2 years and made her return to her peak. She even has the battle prowess of an 8th order immortal god king. Many say she has the potential to become a great emperor. Who would have thought that the genius would be so terrifying now? That young man is her master? Dragon Palace's Dragon King, an 8th Order immortal god king and the leader of a powerful faction. He looks young, but he's not as simple as he looks. The frost goddess with the potential to become a great emperor is so powerful. It's been a long time since someone with the potential to become a great emperor appeared. Around them, some of the experts saw this scene and were slightly shocked as they discussed. Bei Shuang had shaken the region more than 30,000 years ago. Now, he had returned with great strength and was toying with an expert of the imperial court, causing him to lose face. Such strength caused many people's hearts to tremble. Even the few old guardians of the imperial court took a deep look at Bei Shuang and Wang Xian, who was beside her. Is everything settled? Wang Xian asked Bei Shuang without a care when he sensed the gazes around him. It's settled, master. Bei Shuang nodded. Let's go, said Wang Xian with a smile as he looked at the Emperor Star Maiden. All right. The Emperor Star Maiden smiled sweetly and nodded. The three of them flew directly towards the grassland. That young man is actually the leader of the Dragon Palace, Bei Shuang's master, and the leader of the power on the Emperor Star Maiden ranking? Down below, the group of women raised their heads and looked up in shock. The woman in snow-white clothes also frowned slightly. Her eyes revealed a trace of seriousness. She had learned a little about the Dragon Palace yesterday. It was one of the stronger forces among the first-class forces. Based on her guess, given the strength and status of the Emperor Star Maiden, even if she had some status in the Dragon Palace, it wouldn't be too high. However, she did not expect the leader of the Dragon Palace to accompany her personally. That wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was the disciple of the Dragon King, the Frost Goddess. From the comments of the surrounding experts of the Imperial Court, one could guess a thing or two. If she's really strong, I might have to be careful, the woman in snow-white clothes murmured. This Emperor Star Maiden is probably going to rise. The other young men and women of the current generation also thought to themselves. She had the support of a powerful force and knew an expert with the potential of a great emperor. Many of them were far, far away from it. She must be a sugar daddy of that young man. There were also some jealous women who muttered softly. I have to go back to the courtyard to settle some matters. Star Maiden, call me tomorrow. Wang Xian said directly when they returned to the Emperor Star Maiden's house. All right, where's Sister Bei Shuang? Do you want me to bring you around? The Emperor Star Maiden nodded and asked. No need. Bei Shuang shook her head at her. Wang Xian entered the room and closed the door immediately. He sat on the bed and took out elixir pills excitedly. His eyes shone with excitement. I'm about to break through. It's going to be much smoother than I thought. He murmured. This trip was really worth it. Gulp. Drops of elixir pills entered his mouth and were quickly converted into dragon energy. Boom. Half an hour later, his body shook and a majestic aura surged out from his body. Wang Xian immediately retracted his aura. Ding. Congratulations to host for leveling up to 3rd Order Immortal God King. The system's notification sounded. Wang Xian opened his eyes slowly and a 7-colored divine dragon was swimming in his pupils. Name, Wang Xian Race, Yin-Yang 5 Elements Divine Dragon, one with the dragon, level, 3rd Order Immortal God King, 7th Transformation of Divine Dragon Transformation, Origin Source, 2144344/5000000000 Superpower, Dominate the marine animals. Rule all marine animals lower than your own level, devour living beings. Extract origin source from living beings. 5 elements control art of cultivation. Divine dragon transformation superpower. Soul assimilation, spirit attachment, yin-yang 5 elements. Dragon eyes dharma. 5 elements grindstone, dragon country in the palm, dragon head descending, 10,000 miles dragon body, yin-yang 2 poles, yin-yang 5 elements bowl, divine dragon tail whip. Law of substance, metal, wood, water, fire, earth, light, darkness, 3rd Order, God Kingdom, Dragon Palace own Dragon Palace. Level 7 Dragon Palace members, 410842 inch 3rd Order Immortal God King Realm, Ninth Order Immortal God King Realm Battle Prowess. Wang Xian stood up slowly as the seven-colored divine dragon in his eyes gradually dissipated. Phew, I'm one step closer to the peak of the bedazzling starry sky. When I return, the Dragon Palace will be comparable to a large sect. Wang Xian murmured. All right, I wonder what's the situation with the immortal slaying gourd. Wang Xian recalled that the immortal slaying gourd was growing on the progenitor tree. He could sense that the immortal slaying gourd was entangled by the boundless wood and the nirvana lightning tree's branches. One was fire sword chi and the other was lightning sword chi. Together with the green wind sword chi, they revolved around the immortal slaying gourd. The power of the immortal slaying gourd had not changed for the time being. However, it had increased from one sword chi to 3. This immortal slaying gourd is not simple for it to be located on the progenitor tree. I've picked up a treasure again. Wang Xian murmured as a smile appeared on his face. This could be said to be a double blessing. Chapter 2647. Boom, boom, boom. Just as Wang Xian and Imperial Star Maiden were conversing, a powerful aura swept over and the sky rumbled. Wang Xian looked over, and his eyes were filled with shock. Everyone in the square looked towards the center, and soon their mouths were agape, and their faces were filled with shock. In front of the center, 3,000 to 4,000 young, middle-aged, and old men were flying over, each of them exuding a prideful aura. Among them, the weakest was a peak god lord. The strongest was an 8th or 9th order immortal king, and there was even a peak immortal king expert. 3,000 to 4,000 people flew over in a row, and their aura was intimidating. Their aura was not the kind of powerful pressure, but the kind of invincible aura. A kind of invincibility and intense confidence that would make the weak feel inferior. This kind of aura was hard to cultivate, and this kind of aura would greatly amplify one's fighting prowess. I'm invincible. These are the princes and princesses of our imperial court in the past, such powerful aura. They are the princes and princesses of our imperial court in the past tens of millions of years. The one leading them has already become a protector and is in his twilight years. These are all geniuses that dominated their respective eras. In front of the platform, all the imperial court disciples looked at the figures in front of them with awe and respect. Out of those 3,000, any one of them was an existence that dominated their generation in the imperial star domain. They were the most dazzling existences of their generation. The princes and princesses represented the two most outstanding people in the imperial star domain. So. When the 3,000 princes and princesses stood at the front, another group flew out from behind. Similarly, over 10,000 people flew out from behind, and there were still young, middle-aged, and old men. They were also the shining figures of their respective eras, the most outstanding batch of people in their generation. There were even some who caught up and surpassed the princes and princesses of their generation. These people were also outstanding disciples who participated in the competition in the past. Over 10,000 people had arrived, and 80% of them had reached the Immortal King realm. In other words, there were over 10,000 Immortal King experts. Ring the bell. The group of Imperial Court experts arrived, and the white-haired protector in the lead, who was holding a walking stick and had wrinkles all over his face, said softly. Although his voice was gentle, it reached everyone's ears. This was an existence that had lived for nearly 10 million years, an old man past his prime, and a former prince. Boom. A warning bell. Boom. Second bell strikes the world. Boom. World suppressing 3 bells. The grand competition of the Imperial Court's 10,000 third-generation disciples begins. As soon as the old man's voice fell, the huge ancient bell in the center began to ring automatically. Moreover, a pale voice came from the divine clock. The sound of the bell was like a voice from beyond the heavens, striking directly at the soul. When Wang Xian heard the voice, he was slightly shocked. What kind of divine artifact is this? It's actually so terrifying. 1 bell to warn the world, 2 bells to awe the world, 3 bells to suppress the world. And the 100,000th and third generation of the imperial dynasty? In other words, The imperial court has existed for more than 500 million years. Wang Xian's heart skipped a beat. The powerful sound of the bell had a long history. All participating disciples, please enter the stage. The rest of you can just watch from the stairs. Don't hold back. The hosting protector revealed a smile on his aged face as he spoke plainly. Yes, protector. Some disciples responded immediately and leaped towards the empty space in the center of the square. One by one, the disciples entered the square. Soon, millions of disciples landed in the square. Us old guys are the happiest to be able to see the imperial court prospering. The old protector chuckled as he looked at the hundreds of thousands of disciples below. Boom! His walking stick landed softly on the ground with a loud thud. Next, the world-suppressing bell will test your strength and wisdom. Only 100 to 150 princes will remain in the square. All disciples must work hard. Even if you can't make it to the top, those who perform outstandingly will have a high chance of being taken in as disciples by the experts present. At the same time, the voice of the old protector rang. The grand competition of the imperial court's disciples wasn't just a series of battles. It was a selection process that lasted a few days or even a dozen days. With a powerful divine artifact, the selection process would be very simple, and there would be no unfairness at all. The disciples immediately responded in a loud voice. Spread out immediately. 500 meters apart. The old protector said emotionlessly. All the disciples immediately spread out across the square. World-suppressing bell test. The old protector commanded softly. The bell in the center vibrated gently. Streaks of lightning blanketed the sky. In the next moment, a crack was torn in the surrounding space, forming a separate domain. Crackle! Bolts of lightning fell on everyone's body, and lightning appeared in front of the millions of disciples. The lightning turned illusory and transformed into human figures. Each of the human figures possessed the fighting strength of a Tier 4 Eternal Almighty. The first round of the test begins. Defeat the opponents in front of you. The old protector said. Kill. Fight. All the disciples knew that the test had begun. They fixed their eyes on the opponents in front of them and charged forward. This world-suppressing bell is really mystical. Wang Xian looked at the scene before him and glanced at the world-suppressing bell in the center. The test had begun. The first round would eliminate 99% of the participants. The lightning of a Tier 4 Eternal Almighty is of no threat to the Star Princess. Bei Shuang looked at the Emperor Star Princess and said plainly, no threat at all. Wang Xian nodded and glanced over. At this moment, the dragon blood sword appeared in the hands of the Emperor Star Princess. She swung it at the lightning figure in front of her. A wave of energy swept over and the lightning figure collapsed instantly. There were many who could destroy the lightning figure with a single strike. Some of them looked extremely relaxed. Those who were more relaxed lifted their heads slightly and waited for more lightning figures to appear after 10 seconds. 10 seconds later, 2 lightning figures appeared with the same strength as before. The Emperor Star Princess also swung her arm and destroyed them instantly. 10 seconds later, 3 more appeared. The first round of the test is a little boring. The disciples who are truly capable can't perform. I almost fell asleep during the test. Hee, you're really good at bragging. The first round of the test is just a screening. Some of the disciples won't reveal their trump cards. Oh, I'm more optimistic about Emperor Spirit's song. His strength should be at Tier 7 Eternal Almighty now, right? I'm more optimistic about my nephew, Di Ming. My brother came to me yesterday and I gave him a treasure. Now, Di Ming has also broken through to Tier 7 Eternal Almighty. Realm is just one aspect. Actual combat and strength are also important. In front of them, the former princes, princesses, and supreme talents were chatting with smiles on their faces. Chapter 2648. There was no pop-up window for free reading. Boom. Just as Wang Xian and Imperial Star Maiden were conversing, a powerful aura swept over and the sky rumbled. Wang Xian looked over, and his eyes were filled with shock. Everyone in the square hurriedly looked towards the center of the square. Soon, their mouths were slightly agape, and their faces were filled with shock. 3,000 to 4,000 young, middle-aged, and old men were flying over, each of them exuding a prideful aura. Among them, the weakest was a peak god lord. The strongest had 8th or 9th order immortal king realm experts, and there was even a peak immortal king realm expert. 3,000 to 4,000 people flew over in a row, and their aura was intimidating. Their aura was not the kind of powerful pressure, but the kind of invincible aura. A kind of invincibility and intense confidence that would make the weak feel inferior. This kind of aura was hard to cultivate, and this kind of aura would greatly amplify one's fighting prowess. I'm invincible. These are the princes and princesses of our imperial court in the past, such powerful aura. They are the princes and princesses of our imperial court in the past tens of millions of years. The one leading them has already become a protector, and is in his twilight years. These are all geniuses that dominated their respective eras. In front of the platform, all the imperial court disciples looked at the figures in front of them with awe and respect. Out of those 3,000, any one of them was an existence that dominated their generation in the imperial star domain. They were the most dazzling existences of their era. The princes and princesses represented the two most outstanding people in the imperial star domain. So. When the 3,000 princes and princesses stood in front, another group flew out from behind. Similarly, over 10,000 people flew out from behind, and there were still young, middle-aged, and old men. They were also the shining figures of their respective eras, the most outstanding batch of people in their era. There were even some who caught up and surpassed the princes and princesses of their generation. These people were also outstanding disciples who participated in the competition in the past. Over 10,000 people had arrived, and 80% of them had reached the Immortal King realm. In other words, there were over 10,000 Immortal King realm experts. Ring the bell. The group of Imperial Court experts arrived, and the white-haired protector in the lead, who was holding a walking stick and had wrinkles all over his face, said softly. Although his voice was gentle, it reached everyone's ears. This was an existence that had lived for nearly 10 million years, an old man past his prime, and a former prince. Boom. A warning bell. Boom. Second bell strikes the world. Boom. World suppressing 3 bells. The grand competition of the Imperial Court's 10,000 third-generation disciples begins. As soon as the old man's voice fell, the huge ancient bell in the center began to ring automatically. Moreover, a pale voice came from the divine clock. The sound of the bell was like a voice from beyond the heavens, striking directly at the soul. When Wang Xian heard the voice, he was slightly shocked. What kind of divine artifact is this? It's actually so terrifying. 1 bell to warn the world, 2 bells to awe the world, 3 bells to suppress the world. And the 100,000th and third generation of the imperial dynasty? In other words, the imperial court has existed for more than 500 million years. Wang Xian's heart skipped a beat. The powerful sound of the bell had a long history. All participating disciples, please enter the stage. The rest of you can just watch from the stairs. Don't hold back. The hosting protector revealed a smile on his aged face as he spoke plainly. Yes, protector. Some disciples responded immediately and leaped towards the empty space in the center of the square. One by one, the disciples entered the square. Soon, millions of disciples landed in the square. Us old guys are the happiest to be able to see the imperial court prospering. The old protector chuckled as he looked at the hundreds of thousands of disciples below. Boom. His walking stick landed softly on the ground with a loud thud. Next, the world-suppressing bell will test your strength and wisdom. Only 100 to 150 princes will remain in the square. All disciples must work hard. Even if you can't make it to the top, those who perform outstandingly will have a high chance of being taken in as disciples by the experts present. At the same time, the voice of the old protector rang. The grand competition of the imperial court's disciples wasn't just a series of battles. It was a selection process that lasted a few to a dozen days. With a powerful divine artifact, the selection process would be very simple, and there would be no unfairness at all. The disciples immediately responded in a loud voice. Spread out immediately. 500 meters apart. The old protector said emotionlessly. All the disciples immediately spread out across the square. World suppressing bell, test. The old protector exclaimed softly. The world suppressing bell in the center vibrated gently. Streaks of lightning blanketed the sky. In the next moment, a crack was torn in the surrounding space, forming a separate domain. Crackle. Bolts of lightning fell on everyone's body, and lightning appeared in front of the millions of disciples. The lightning turned illusory and transformed into human figures. Each of the human figures possessed the fighting strength of a Tier 4 Eternal Almighty. The first test begins. Defeat the opponents in front of you. The old protector said. Kill. Fight. All the disciples knew the test had begun. They stared at the opponents in front of them and charged at them. This world-suppressing bell is magical. Wang Xian looked at the scene before him and glanced at the world-suppressing bell in the center. The test had begun. The first round would eliminate 99% of the candidates. The lightning of a Tier 4 Eternal Almighty is no threat to the Star Princess. Bei Shuang looked at the Emperor Star Princess and said plainly, "No threat at all." Wang Xian nodded and looked over. At this moment, the dragon blood sword appeared in the hands of the Emperor Star Princess. She swung it at the lightning figure in front of her. A wave of energy swept over and the lightning figure collapsed instantly. There were many who could destroy the lightning figure with a single strike. Some looked extremely relaxed. Those who were more relaxed lifted their heads slightly and waited for the next figure to appear 10 seconds later. 10 seconds later, 2 more lightning figures appeared, with the same strength as the previous one. The Emperor Star Princess also swung her arm and destroyed them instantly. 10 seconds later, 3 more appeared. The first test is a little boring. The disciples who are truly capable can't show their strength. I almost fell asleep during the test. Hee, you are really good at bragging. The first test is just a screening. Some of the disciples won't reveal their trump cards. Oh, I'm more optimistic about Emperor Spirit's song. His strength should be at Tier 7 Eternal Almighty now, right? I'm more optimistic about my nephew, Di Ming. My brother came to me yesterday and I gave him a treasure. Now, Di Ming has also broken through to Tier 7 Eternal Almighty. Realm is just one aspect. Actual combat and strength are also important. At the front, the former princes, princesses, and supreme talents were chatting with smiles on their faces. Chapter 2649. There was no pop-up window for free reading. Kill. Boom. Go to hell. In the square in front of the vast palace, roars filled with fighting spirit rang out. In front of them, the experts were chatting with smiles on their faces. This made the atmosphere much more relaxed. Look, Di Su Zhuang, Di Jiu, Di Ming, and Di Spirit Song are so strong. As soon as the lightning shadow appeared, they destroyed it. Look at the corner. The Emperor Star Lady is so strong too. She's a famous celebrity in the Imperial Star region. She earns a lot of divine stones in one concert. Her strength is terrifying too. Di Qingshan is probably one of the top disciples in this generation. Hey, who are those 2 young men over there? Could they be this year's dark horse? The people who came to watch the ceremony were in a heated discussion. The people who were watching the ceremony from the stairs could clearly see everything that was happening in the hall. The strengths of some of the disciples were immediately revealed. This was especially true for the few disciples who were more popular. They easily killed the lightning phantoms one after another. It was clear who was stronger. The imperial court had to pick about 100 disciples from the millions of disciples. It could be said to be 1 in 10,000. In fact, it wasn't just 1 in 10,000. These millions of disciples were chosen from hundreds of millions or even billions of imperial court disciples. There was also a prerequisite, the imperial court's elite disciples. The imperial court's territory belonged to the imperial court's disciples. There were more than 100 billion young disciples. It could be said that the entire imperial court had gathered here. To have the strength of a second or third order eternal God Lord at the age of 5,000 was already considered outstanding. As time passed, the disciples were eliminated one by one and transported out by the world's suppressing bell. They were slightly unwilling to accept it. They looked at the disciples who were still fighting and shook their heads. They were all geniuses and knew how far they could go. Di Haosong, your daughter is not bad. Looks like she'll have a place this time. At the front, a young lady said to the middle-aged man beside her, My daughter? My kid is useless. What about my daughter? Which one are you talking about? The middle-aged man called Di Haosong was confused. He's really a playboy. Maybe he doesn't even know how many sons he has now, Her gaze landed on the Emperor Star Princess. The Emperor Star Princess should be one of the favorites for the Emperor Star Princess. Her strength is not bad, and I heard that she has a powerful faction supporting her. Emperor Star Maiden, I remember now. Di Haosong's gaze landed on the Emperor Star Maiden as his eyes brightened. Not bad, not bad. To be able to grow to this level without my guidance, this daughter is not bad. How ironic. It's bad luck to have a father like you. The woman beside him shook her head. How could it be unlucky? It should be an honor. We really need to nurture him well from now on. Di Haosong narrowed his eyes slightly. He used to be a prince and was called a dissolute wastrel by others. Women were counted in tens of thousands. Apart from his wife, who was often with him, and his wife's sons and daughters were often raised, the rest of his children were rarely seen. This was the first time he had noticed this outstanding daughter of his. If she could really get a good ranking and even become the Emperor Star Princess, he would have to nurture her well. He knew the potential of an Emperor Star Princess and a disciple who could get a good ranking. Without exaggerating, she was the future of the imperial court. Big brother, your daughter is not simple. At this moment, Di Haofeng beside the woman looked at Di Haosong and said expressionlessly, How is she not simple? Di Haosong was interested and asked right away. My niece is very close to a top-tier faction, and the leader of that faction is the master of the Frost Goddess. Di Haofeng said with a sunken expression. Frost Goddess? Di Haosong's brow rose up. Take a look at the information on the AI. Your brother was taught a terrible lesson by the Frost Goddess. The woman beside him smiled. It seems like many things have happened in the dozen years that I was in seclusion. Di Haosong smiled and took out the AI to check some information. Soon, he raised his eyebrows and his eyes sparkled. All right, 123 disciples have passed the assessment. Among them, 20 to 30 are not required to participate in the next assessment due to their age. All of you will be rewarded by the imperial court. Before long, a voice sounded. At this moment, the Emperor Star Princess had also destroyed the encirclement of more than 160 lightning shadows. As the voice fell, the world suppression bell rang. Bolts of lightning surrounded the 100 figures in the field. As for the remaining 23, they were relatively younger, around 1 to 2,000 years old, and had decent talents. As they had started cultivating late, there was no need for them to participate in the next assessment. The disciples who defeated more than 150 lightning shadows will stand aside and watch. The 10 of you are qualified to compete for the position of the prince and princess. Of course, the rest of you are also qualified to challenge them. The other 90 disciples will participate in the ranking battle. The top 10 will be able to challenge these disciples. The old protector announced plainly. Yes, protector. The Emperor Star Maiden and the other 9 disciples couldn't help but reveal looks of excitement. Their figures flashed and they immediately moved to the side. Mother, Wang Xian. The Emperor Star Princess flew to the front of Wang Xian and called out with a beaming face. Great, our Star Princess has finally grown up. The Emperor Star Princess's mother also patted her head happily with a smile on her face. Mother, I'll definitely be the princess this time. When the time comes, we will live in this palace. The Emperor Star Princess lifted her head slightly and clenched her fists. Meun, you've taught a good daughter. At this moment, laughter was heard from the side. The Emperor Star Princess's mother raised her eyebrows as she turned to the side and looked at the handsome middle-aged man. Husband. She bowed slightly and called out. When the Emperor Star Princess heard the way her mother addressed her, she shivered and looked at the middle-aged man expressionlessly. But aren't you going to greet your father? Di Haosong looked at her with a beaming face and said. The Emperor Star Princess replied coldly with an indifferent tone. Star Princess. The lady beside her called out to her. Hee, I didn't know I had a father. The Emperor Star Princess replied plainly when she saw her mother touching her. Her words made Di Haosong frown slightly. Don't throw a tantrum. He spoke plainly to the Emperor Star Princess. What kind of father is he? The Emperor Star Princess looked at her mother and replied directly. Chapter 2650. Wonderful pop-up window for free reading. What kind of father is he? Di Haosong's face darkened when he heard Emperor Stargirl's words. He was the Emperor's son from 40,000 years ago and had a life of glory. Which of his children didn't fear and respect him? Yet, Emperor Stargirl had completely disregarded him. You've grown up, child? Di Haosong stared at Emperor Stargirl coldly. Yeah, I've grown up. Emperor Stargirl stared back at him without fear and replied plainly. Stargirl, how can you speak to your father like that? The woman by the side quickly spoke to Emperor Stargirl with a bitter expression. He's not fit to be a husband or a father. The Emperor's star daughter said stubbornly as she looked at her mother. Great. May, you've taught your daughter well. Di Haosong's face darkened instantly as he stared coldly at the woman. Don't look at my mother like that. Do you think you're fit to be a husband? How dare you criticize others? Emperor Stargirl stared at him with disdain and said directly. You lack education? Di Haosong's face turned cold as he slapped his palm towards Emperor Stargirl's face. Cough cough. Wang Xian extended his hand and held Di Haosong's palm easily. He coughed but didn't say a word. Stop it. Di Haosong sensed Wang Xian's palm and his expression changed. Following which, he stared at Wang Xian with a gloomy face and growled with murderous intent in his eyes. You should be the one to stop, Wang Xian said plainly. Wang Xian said plainly. He let go of his hand and stared at him emotionlessly. Great. Looks like you've grown up. You even dare to disobey me. Di Haosong laughed as he stared coldly at Emperor Stargirl and her mother. Mom, we don't have to be bullied by him. Haven't we been like this all these years? Now that I've become the Emperor's daughter, why should I be afraid of him? Emperor Stargirl said coldly. Once she became the Emperor's daughter, she would be valued by the imperial court. Although her status wasn't as high as her father wouldn't be able to do anything to her. After all, her talent wasn't inferior to her father's. Before her father reached rank 8 or rank 9, the imperial court would treat him equally. The Emperor's star daughter's mother fell silent and sighed helplessly. As your father, even if you become a princess, I can still teach you a lesson about how disgraceful and heinous it is. Di Haosong was completely infuriated by Emperor Star Maiden's words. He raised his arm again and was about to hit her. Hey, don't embarrass yourself. Wang Xian looked over and spoke plainly. Once again, he grabbed his arm easily and reminded him. Get out of here. This is our family's business. Let go if you don't want to die. Di Haosong's expression changed again as he stared at Wang Xian with undisguised killing intent. Don't embarrass yourself. Hearing his words, Bei Shuang placed her hand on Di Haosong's shoulder. Di Haosong wanted to dodge, but he found that he couldn't react in time. The palm landed on his body, and frost covered half of his arm. Wang Xian and Bei Shuang could tell that the Emperor Star Maiden did not have a good impression of her father. In fact, there was even a tinge of hatred. As for the Emperor's star daughter's mother, she also had no feelings for her husband. Given to Di Haosong by his family, he naturally had no feelings for Di Haosong. In addition, he had been neglected for tens of thousands of years. How could she have a good impression of him? More than anything, she felt helpless and indignant. You guys are courting death. How dare you create trouble in the imperial court? Di Haosong's expression changed as he stared at Wang Xian and Bei Shuang with undisguised killing intent. The Emperor's star daughter's business is also the Dragon Palace's business. Therefore, I'm sorry if you're looking for trouble. Wang Xian pushed Di Haosong gently with his palm. Di Haosong's entire body shook and retreated to the back. In an instant, his face was filled with anger. In the center, the group of princes and princesses who were watching the battle noticed the situation and were slightly shocked. Big brother. Di Haofeng's expression changed as he rushed out to support Di Haosong. What's going on? Protector Song looked at Di Haosong before sweeping his gaze across Wang Xian, the Emperor's star daughter, and the rest. Protector, it's nothing. Di Haosong's expression changed constantly as he took a deep breath and replied with a gloomy face. Don't wash your dirty linen in public. What else could he say about this? Bullied by the force that his daughter relied on? Where was his face? He stood among the group of princes and princesses with a gloomy face. Lord Protector, that girl is pretty strong. She's the strongest among the disciples. The force that she relies on is also very strong. If nothing goes wrong, the princess will be hers. In the center, an old lady glanced at the Emperor's star daughter and sent a voice transmission to Protector Song. Yeah, if nothing goes wrong, she's the strongest and is also the strongest disciple in the recent dozen generations. Protector Song nodded his head slightly. Mom, let's ignore him. When your daughter becomes the princess, we won't have to be afraid of him. Moreover, Wang Xian, Sister Bei Shuang, and the rest will help me. Over at Wang Xian's side, the Emperor's star daughter comforted her worried mother with a smile. He's your father after all. The old lady sighed and said. The Emperor's star daughter snorted softly before turning her head and thanking Wang Xian softly. Wang Xian smiled and nodded his head. At the front, 90 disciples were sparring one by one. After more than 10 hours, the ranking was out. 11 to 20 disciples, step forward. The other 10 disciples will also enter the field. More than 10 hours was a short time for the experts. Protector Song's voice continued. The disciples came to the field with excitement in their eyes. They sized up their competitors with fighting spirit on their faces. 20 disciples and 6 females. The females will first choose a princess, and then the ranking will be carried out. Protector Song announced the rules. There would be one prince and princess in each batch. However, there would be a situation where the princess might not be as strong as the second or third place on the male side. This wouldn't affect the title of the princess, but it would affect the distribution of resources at the end. All male disciples will stand aside and watch. The 6 female disciples are free to challenge. Protector Song continued. Yes, Protector. The group of male disciples stood aside immediately. Who do you think will become the princess? Di Suzhuang's strength shouldn't be underestimated. She's definitely in the top 3 in our generation. There's a dark horse among the females, but I'm not sure how strong she is. Don't forget about the Emperor's star daughter. She's not weak either. The 14 young men walked to the side as some of them made their guesses. Emperor's star daughter? She's just an entertainer. What right does she have to be called the princess? Di Qingshan said with a sullen face. The few young men beside her smiled faintly when they heard her. Chapter 2651. The selection of the princess is about to begin. There are only 6 women in the top 20. I wonder who will get the title of princess. Di Suzhuang is the most likely. Goddess Suzhuang's strength is widely recognized. I heard that the ancestor elder Suzhuang often gives her pointers. Goddess Suzhuang must have reached the 7th order of the eternal God Lord realm. That woman called Liang Yi is a big dark horse. She had a lot of battle experience in the battle just now. The Emperor's star princess can't be ignored. This time, she brought the leader of a force with her, and that leader is the master of the ice goddess. The selection of the princess began. Everyone watched with wide eyes and began to discuss. The selection of the princess was about to begin, and the crowd was in an uproar. They analyzed the 6 women one by one. Among the 6 women, 4 were geniuses who lived in vast palaces and had the best resources in the Imperial Star region. The other 2 were the Emperor's Star Princess and the Dark Horse Girl. Di Suzhuang was the most popular. Many people thought she could become the princess. Although the Emperor's Star Princess was a top star in the Imperial Star region, The core geniuses of the imperial court didn't care about her at all. I heard that the Emperor Star Princess is very strong. Among the 6 of them, only you are worthy of being my opponent. In the field, Di Suzhuang turned his body slightly and completely ignored the other 4 female disciples. He stared at the Emperor Star Princess. The expressions of 3 of the women changed slightly. They were embarrassed by Di Suzhuang's disdain. The other woman looked on expressionlessly and slightly tightened her grip on the long sword in her hand. It seems that Di Suzhuang values the Emperor Star Princess a lot. I heard that the Emperor Star Princess isn't weak either. She's a star and doesn't lack resources. I just didn't expect Di Suzhuang to value her so much. Some of the onlookers were slightly surprised when they saw this. Di Suzhuang, I've heard of you for a long time. The Emperor Star Princess looked at her as a faint smile appeared on her face. She glanced at the group of princes and paused her gaze on Di Haosong for 2 seconds. However, you're still far from being strong. She raised her head slightly and glanced at all the women around her, including the 16 young men 1,000 meters away. Bam bam. As her voice fell, the dragon blood sword appeared in her hand, emitting an incomparably cold sound. Emperor Star Maiden, you're too arrogant. Di Suzhuang's eyes turned cold. She was one of the top women in the imperial court. This was the first time someone had looked down on her. With a shake of her arm, a snow-white sword also appeared in her hand. Let's go together to save some time. The corners of the Emperor Star Maiden's mouth curled up as she swept her gaze across the surroundings. Clang. In the next moment, the dragon blood sword in her hand moved, covering all the people around her. Emperor Star Maiden, you're too arrogant. You actually want to challenge all of us by yourself? The expressions of the 4 women changed slightly when they saw the Emperor Star Maiden's attack enveloping them. This Emperor Star Princess is so arrogant. She actually wants to fight 1 against 5? How arrogant! Those who are able to make it to the top 20 are not that far apart in terms of strength. He actually dares to challenge 5 of them. When the 16 youths saw the Emperor Star Princess attack Di Suzhuang and the other 4 women, their expressions turned cold. What? Her energy also enveloped us. However, the next moment, to everyone's astonishment, the fiery red sword light also enveloped them. Now, they suddenly understood what the Emperor Star Princess had said. Let's go together to save some time. Was she trying to save some energy to fight against them? Was she confident that she could challenge all 19 of them by herself? Arrogant and conceited. You don't know your place. Emperor Spirit Song, who was in the center, had a cold look on his face. She wasn't taking them seriously at all. Emperor Star Princess, are you looking for a fight? Di Ming, who was next to her, was also startled. Say that after you block my sword. The Emperor Star Princess's sword wasn't very fast. In fact, to show off her strength, the speed of her sword was very slow. What is the Emperor Star Princess doing? Does she really think she can fight against all 19 of them by herself? No, look at the power of her sword. The surrounding people were in an uproar. However, some of the princes and princesses in front of them sensed that something was wrong. They were all strong cultivators and could clearly sense the power of the Emperor Star Princess's sword. They were all shocked. No, her sword is so strong. At this moment, Di Suzhuang and the others, who were closest to the Emperor Star Princess, sensed the terrifying power contained in the sword. So strong. The woman on the black horse had a solemn look on her face. Di Suzhuang's face was full of panic as she slashed forward with her snow-white sword. Block it. The other women also gritted their teeth and took out their weapons to block. Oh no. She's very strong. How is this possible? The fiery sword aura had also reached the 14 young men. Feeling the power of the fiery sword, their expressions changed drastically. The next moment, all of them unleashed their full strength to block the attack. Bam. Kakaka. Oh no. How can she be so strong? Sounds of collision and disbelief could be heard. All the attacks from the Emperor Star Princess collapsed instantly. The fiery sword aura from the dragon blood sword continued sweeping towards them. Dodge! The 19 young men and women hurriedly retreated in fear, their expressions changing constantly. Because the Emperor Star Princess had purposely slowed the sword aura down, the 19 pale-faced people retreated from the range of the fiery sword aura. Just one sword. There was no one around the Emperor Star Princess. She stood there, looking down at the 19 young men and women with disdain. Indeed, just one sword. Given her peak Eternal Divine Lord strength, she could kill all of these 7th-level Eternal Divine Lord disciples with a single sword strike if she wanted to. Hiss, peak Divine Lord. Her words caused the 19 fleeing youths to gasp as they stared at her in fear and shock. Peak Divine Lord. The Emperor Star Princess had the strength of a peak Divine Lord. She was much, much stronger than them. How could the Emperor Star Princess be so strong? Peak Divine Lord. She's actually a peak Divine Lord. It's been a long time since such a strong disciple has appeared in the Imperial Star region. Exclamations of shock could be heard from the surroundings. Chapter 2652. In the Imperial Court's Disciple Tournament, those who could reach the Eternal God Lord 7th Order were more or less qualified to become princes and princesses. Just like the 2 princes and princesses from the previous generation, they had this level of strength. Even after 5,000 years, they were only at the peak God Lord level. They were still a step away from becoming an immortal God King. But now that the Emperor Star Princess had displayed the strength of a peak God Lord, it meant that she could stand shoulder to shoulder with the princes and princesses from the previous generation. This was a difference of 5,000 years. How can the Emperor Star Princess be so strong? I remember that she was only around the 5th Order God Lord a few years ago. Did she obtain some supreme treasure to raise her strength so quickly? Either she's been hiding her strength all this time, or she's obtained a huge amount of resources in the past few years. The eyes of the surrounding people flickered as they looked at the Emperor Star Princess. She was facing 19 of the most outstanding disciples of her generation and could still suppress them easily. It had been a long time since such a powerful disciple had appeared in the Imperial Court. So strong. Among the princes and princesses, Di Haosong's expression kept changing. This was his daughter. If it was any other time, he would definitely be very happy. His daughter had become the Empress, and she was so powerful. But now, his expression gradually darkened. Peak God Lord. The 19 disciples' expressions kept changing. Di Su's face darkened as he gripped the snow-white longsword in his hand. I admit defeat. The woman on the black horse looked at the Emperor Star Princess, who was exuding a powerful aura, shook her head and retreated. I also admit defeat. I also admit defeat. With someone taking the lead, 2 other women shook their heads helplessly and retreated to the side. The strength of a peak God Lord wasn't something they could contend with. What about you guys? The Emperor Star Princess lifted her head slightly and glanced at the rest of the crowd, including the 14 young men. We concede defeat. I really didn't expect you to be so strong. The young men shook their heads and retreated to the side. In an instant, 10 men retreated to the side. Emperor Star Princess, don't think that we're afraid of you just because you have the strength of a peak God Lord. The selection of the princes and princesses is a test of strength, not cultivation level. Di Su gripped the snow-white longsword in his hand, unwilling to give up. Wah wah wah. In the next moment, drops of white liquid dripped from her longsword. The liquid slowly condensed into a human figure. The white figure entered Di Suzong's body. Boom. In the next moment, an incomparably powerful aura burst forth from her body. This is a battle spirit that I obtained. I nurtured it for 1,000 years and fused it with it. Don't think that you can suppress everyone just because you have the strength of a peak divine master. This competition isn't over yet. Di Su's clothes fluttered even though there was no wind, and his aura surged. Battle spirit, I never thought that Di Su Zheng would obtain such a treasure. Some people were shocked to see Di Su Zhuang's aura increase. The princes and princesses looked on with twinkling eyes. The competition between the princes and princesses was a competition of strength and combat power. Other than high-tech items, everything else could be used. Hee hee, Emperor Star Maiden, you want to suppress all of us? You're dreaming no matter how strong you are. At the side, A wooden staff appeared in the hands of the Emperor Soul Singer. Vines extended from the staff, and the vines slowly covered the entire body. Crack, crack. Soon, a similarly powerful aura emanated from his body, and it wasn't any weaker than a peak divine master's. At the same time, the vines wrapped around his body made him more than 100 meters tall. Come out, wooden dove. Chirp chirp. But it wasn't over yet. He waved the staff in front of him, and a 10-meter-long battle pet suddenly appeared. The battle pet had a pair of leaf-like wings, and it perched on Emperor Soul Singer's massive shoulders. He's showing his trump card. Emperor Soul Singer has shown his trump card. A peak divine master battle pet, and those powerful vines covering his entire body. What sort of treasure is that? As expected, none of the prodigies of our imperial court are simple. Emperor Soul Singer's aura is so strong. He himself has the fighting strength of a peak divine master, and with that battle pet of his, he's even stronger than the Emperor Star Maiden. Although he's borrowing external power, it's still a part of his strength. Some people were astonished to see the changes in Di Su Zheng and Emperor Soul Singer. Even the Emperor Star Daughter's mother's face was filled with worry. Several young men and women revealed fearful expressions when they saw the changes in Emperor Soul Singer, and their pupils constricted. I didn't expect the final battle to start so soon. Di Ming's lips curled up as he waved his arm. Crack crack crack. Pieces of metal appeared in front of him, transforming into a 10-meter-tall giant like a transformer. He leaped onto the body of the transformer. The puppet. All of them are very strong. They all have quite a lot of trump cards. The black-robed Digio's eyes flashed with a dark luster. Crack 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 crack. 2 dark golden skeletons appeared around him. The dark golden skeletons exuded an eerie aura. I won't be satisfied if I don't try. Emperor Star Maiden, don't be too arrogant. In terms of trump cards and resources, you're still far behind. Di Qingshan waved his arm, and a wolf battle pet covered in scales appeared next to him. The battle pet looked around and bellowed angrily. A strong killing intent spread to the surroundings. Silence! Di Qingshan shouted. The battle pet lowered its head and stood next to him. 2 powerful battle pets. That dark golden skeleton is a special kind of battle pet. They tamed it completely. They didn't tame it. They tamed it with the help of powerful beast tamers over time. That is why they can control it so easily. That requires long-term help. That is the foundation. When the group of young men and women saw this scene, they were a little envious. Emperor Star Maiden, don't challenge us in such an arrogant way. Don't be so violent either. Apologize to us. Let's see who the Emperor Star Maiden is before we fight. Otherwise, we'll have to return the favor. Emperor Soul Song said to the Emperor Star Maiden coldly. The Emperor Star Maiden had embarrassed them. Naturally, they had to get back at her. I'm curious to see how arrogant you can be. Di Qingshan glared at the Emperor Star Maiden. No wonder you have the support of your seniors. You're different. But still, you're not qualified to compete with me. The Emperor Star Maiden's gaze swept across the surroundings as she slowly squatted down, a cold expression on her face. Stand Snake, she shouted in a low voice. The next second, a huge creature appeared. Chapter 2653. There was no pop-up window for free reading. A series of noises that made one's scalp tingle rang out in the square of the Imperial Court's current disciple competition. Its body was over 10,000 meters long, its body was gray, its head was triangular, and its eyes were cold and sinister. When the erect serpent appeared beneath the Emperor Star Maiden, a cold and terrifying aura instantly swept across the surroundings. Roar roar. Crack crack. At that moment, all the battle pets of Emperor Suj and Emperor Qingshan dropped to the ground, trembling. They couldn't help but growl. Even the 2 dark golden skeletons bent over. They had completely lost the ability to fight. At this moment, everyone was stunned. Even the princes and princesses in front of them widened their eyes and stared blankly at this scene. Shock was written all over their faces. At that moment, the snake revealed itself completely. It was over 10,000 meters tall. It looked down at the prodigies of the imperial court who were like ants. It stuck out its tongue. Boom! A wave of terrifying pressure instantly spread out to the surroundings. Di Suzhuang, Di Henge, Di Ming, Di Qingshan, and Di Jiu were shocked. They couldn't help but bend down, almost crawling on the ground. At this moment, their faces were filled with shock and disbelief. How is this possible? How is this possible? All of the proud sons of heaven found it hard to believe. In their opinion, their trump cards were already sufficiently powerful and heaven-defying. They had paid a great price to obtain each of them. Take the battle pets at the peak of the Divine Lord level, for example. They had bought those battle pets and trained them to adulthood. During this period, they would have to spend a lot of time developing a relationship with the battle pets, and taming masters would have to spend a lot of time taming them. Because the battle pets were stronger than their masters. A battle pet that was stronger than its master could be dangerous for the master. Especially when the battle pet was in danger, the battle pet might run away or even kill its master. Who would dare to be their mount if they couldn't control a battle pet that was weaker than them? They had paid a great price to get those battle pets at the peak of the Divine Lord level. But what rank was the Emperor Star Princess's battle pet? Just the terrifying power that was revealed was not something that they could contend against. They didn't even dare to look at the battle pet in the eye. This terrifying pressure was something they had only felt from 4th and 5th order Undying God Kings, and even 6th or 7th order Undying God Kings. Is she crazy? How can she control such a powerful battle pet? Di Su's face was filled with disbelief as he raised his head with difficulty and growled, What is this battle pet? He actually has the aura of a 5th order immortal God King? How is that possible? She's just a peak God Lord lass, yet she has a rank 5 Undying God King battle pet. Not only were the disciples of the imperial court in disbelief, even the spectators and the princes and princesses were shocked. A level 5 Undying God King battle pet, such a powerful battle pet, many of the princes and princesses did not have one. That's a starry sky behemoth, a starry sky behemoth serpent. At the strongest position, the old protector's eyes suddenly shot out a ray of light, and he roared in a low voice. What? Giant space beast, protector, how is that possible? Giant space beast battle pet, we don't have more than 3 in the entire Imperial Star domain, how can she have one? As the old protector's voice faded, a few 8th order and 9th order Undying God King princes and princesses around him asked with their eyes wide open. Battle pets were also divided into ranks, and without a doubt, the strongest battle pet was the Giant Space Beast. There were only 3 Giant Space Beast battle pets in the entire Imperial Star domain, and one of them was the mount of one of the Imperial Court's protectors. That Giant Space Beast had the strength of a peak Undying God King, so powerful that it was almost invincible. The other 2 Giant Space Beast battle pets were also famous, and had terrifying strength. Yet now, a peak Godlord female actually had a 5th order Undying God King Giant Space Beast battle pet? Crazy. Boom. The old protector's eyes flashed as he stared at the towering snake, and did not reply to the surrounding princes and princesses. His figure flashed, and instantly appeared in front of Emperor Star Maiden. In the sky, Emperor Star Maiden, who was standing on top of the towering snake's head, was slightly shocked. Protector, she called out respectfully at once. This towering snake lives in your god kingdom? The old protector asked directly. Yes, Protector. Its lair is also in my god kingdom. Emperor Star Maiden nodded. Let me see how you ride it. The old protector's eyes flashed. Yes, Protector. Emperor Star Maiden understood that the protector wanted to test her. This was also to prevent her from cheating by getting a battle pet at the last minute to suppress the other youths of the same generation. Little snake, entrench. She lightly stepped on the towering snake's head. Without any hesitation, the towering snake coiled its body downwards. Its 10,000-meter-long body directly coiled in the middle of the square, giving off a strong sense of awe. Little snake, take. Emperor Star Maiden raised her head, smiled at the protector, and ordered. The towering snake stuck out its tongue, and a powerful aura surged from its body. A surge of energy wrapped around Emperor Star Maiden, and in the next instant, the towering snake charged towards the old protector. Boom boom boom. Seeing this, the old protector's eyes glowed. An invincible aura surged from him towards the towering snake. The towering snake, which was preparing to attack, was horrified. It stuck out its head and stared at the old protector with fear. Its body was trembling, but it did not run away. Instead, it circled around the old protector, as though waiting for an opportunity to strike. Great, ha, great! The old protector couldn't help but burst into laughter when he saw the towering snake's reaction. Great, Emperor Star Maiden, right? Great, such a giant star beast is completely loyal to its master. Very good, he looked at the Emperor Star Maiden happily and praised her generously. In the Imperial Star Domain, there weren't many that could earn the praise of this Emperor's son. To be able to control a fifth-order immortal king giant star beast at the pinnacle of the eternal godlord realm, it's hard to imagine what kind of opportunity you have. The old protector exclaimed, "Protector, this is Wang Xian. The Dragon King caught and tamed it for me." The Emperor Star Maiden bowed respectfully to the protector. She looked at where Wang Xian was standing and spoke with a smile on her face. Dragon King, it seems like the Dragon King is a rare beast-taming grandmaster. The old protector's eyes were filled with surprise as he followed the Emperor Star Maiden's gaze to Wang Xian. Seeing the protector's gaze, Wang Xian cupped his fists at him. "Thank you, Dragon King, for helping the imperial court to groom such a princess." The old protector also cupped his fists at Wang Xian. Chapter 2654. Star Princess and I are friends. When Wang Xian heard the words of the elderly guardian, he replied with a smile. "Princess." Lord Protector addressed Emperor Star Princess as Princess. "That means, isn't that normal? That's a fifth-order immortal king god king beast. Protector has already tested it and it's completely loyal to its master. That's heaven-defying. The princess truly lives up to her name. Just the Emperor Star Princess' strength alone far surpasses the other disciples, not to mention her trump cards. She has an astral beast battle pet. Not to mention the current generation, even if you look back 7 or 8 generations, is there anyone that can be a match for her? As for factions, there's no need to compete at all. Let alone the Dragon King, even the Emperor Star Princess might not be a match for the giant space serpent just by relying on her giant space beast. It's not just the princess. The number 1 of this generation is out too. There's no comparison at all. She's completely crushed. When the surrounding people heard the protector's words, they all had shocked expressions on their faces. The protector's words meant that the princess of this generation had been decided. However, everyone also understood. How could she not be the princess? It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that she was the number 1 of this generation. She was probably the first in the history of the imperial court to achieve that with just her giant serpent beast. What's the relationship between the Dragon King and Emperor Star Princess? He gave her a giant serpent beast? The giant serpent beast can grow to the peak of the Divine King realm at its peak, right? That's a protector-level existence. Soon, some people looked at Wang Xian on the viewing platform. Their eyes flickered and were filled with shock. He gave such a giant serpent beast to the Emperor Star Princess? Even his own father wouldn't bear to do that. Could he be her godfather? Some of the youths were thinking about it. SSS, there's no comparison. In the square, Di Su, Di Hungu and the rest looked on helplessly. They weren't on the same level. Di Qingshan didn't look too good as he stood there with uncertainty. Luckily, she doesn't know that I targeted her. At this moment, Di Qingshan felt lucky. Big brother, this is yours. Among the group of princes and princesses, Di Haofeng stared blankly at the dazzling lady on the square. He opened his mouth and spoke to his elder brother. Di Haofeng's body trembled slightly, and his expression was extremely ugly. This was his daughter, the daughter who didn't recognize him as her father. He had some understanding of the giant space serpent. It could grow to the peak of the God King realm. This kind of existence, as long as they did not perish midway, would be a peak God King existence. He didn't even dare to be sure that he could become a peak god king powerhouse. That's enough. Princess is the Emperor Star Maiden, and the champion of this generation's competition is also the Emperor Star Maiden. There's no need for you to participate in the following battles. You can just watch from the sidelines. Next, it's time to select the princes and rank them. At this moment, the old protector announced with a smile. Emperor Spirit's Song, Emperor Suzhuang, and the others had no objections. The Emperor Star Princess couldn't help but reveal a happy smile. She kept the monarch snake and flew towards her mother and Wang Xian. Mom, I've become a princess. The Emperor's Star daughter hugged her mother as she spoke emotionally. Good job, Star Maiden. Tears welled up in the eyes of the woman as she patted her back happily. Star Maiden, you have to thank the Dragon King and young Master Wang Xian properly. The woman looked at her daughter's face and instructed. I know. The Emperor Star Maiden nodded and looked at Wang Xian. Wang Xian lifted his head slightly, as though he was looking down on her. Seeing him like this, the Emperor Star Maiden couldn't help but laugh. After becoming a princess, I'll have quite a bit of authority. Moreover, the strength I've displayed will be valued by the imperial court. Stay in the imperial court for a few days, and I'll treat my benefactor well. The Emperor Star Maiden whispered to Wang Xian. I'll pass this time. I still have some matters to settle on the Demon Island. Didn't you have to enter the secret realm after becoming a princess? Come to the Dragon Palace to thank me when you have time. Wang Xian chuckled. Next, Wang Xian and the others became spectators as they watched the battles of the other 19 disciples. After several hours of battles, the Emperor Spirit's Song was selected. He had a peak stage god lord war pet, and his strength was comparable to a peak stage god lord under the cover of vines. Moreover, Emperor Spirit's Song's faction was relatively strong. After all these considerations, Emperor Spirit's Song was chosen as the Emperor Spirit's Song of this generation. Similarly, he was the second place of this generation. If it weren't for the Emperor Star Maiden's incredible talent and terrifying cosmic beast war pet, Emperor Spirit's Song would definitely be the most dazzling existence of this generation. It was a pity that with the Emperor Star Maiden around, Emperor Spirit's Song, who had extraordinary talent and strength, seemed rather mediocre. The Emperor and Princess will be allocated a side palace in the Imperial Court Palace. You can bring 3 of your family members in. Tomorrow, the top 100 disciples will enter the merit shop, and the top 10 will enter the secret realm to cultivate for a month. The abyss is coming, and the war is about to begin. In a month, all of you will go to the abyss battlefield to train and accumulate merits. By then, your factions will follow you into the abyss battlefield. After the ranking was over, a group of disciples stood in the middle of the square. The old protector said solemnly, "It seems like the abyss this time has threatened the entire imperial court. Even the imperial court's disciples are going to fight." Wang Xian's eyes lit up when he heard the old protector's words. For a war to affect the imperial court, there must be void god-level existences in the abyss. Otherwise, the Emperor Star Maiden and the other disciples wouldn't be sent to the battlefield. All right, all disciples will head to the merit shop tomorrow. The old protector's announcement ended, and the disciples dispersed. Wang Xian. The Emperor Star Maiden flew over happily. Congratulations, Emperor Star Maiden. You're the best of your generation. Luckily I'm not in the same generation as Emperor Star Maiden. Otherwise I would be suppressed. Congratulations. However, before Wang Xian and the rest could chat with the Emperor Star Maiden, many people flew over to her. The Emperor Star Maiden was slightly stunned when she saw the crowd congratulating her. She smiled and replied immediately. She was considered a junior in the imperial court, and she didn't dare to put on airs when the elders congratulated her. Moreover, there were many former emperors and princesses who came to congratulate her. She didn't dare to ignore them, even if she had great potential. Wang Xian looked at them and revealed a smile. The matter with the Emperor Star Maiden had been settled, and it was time for him to return. He had also received a signal from the imperial court that a war was about to break out, and the Dragon Palace had to improve as soon as possible and complete its transformation in this war. Chapter 2655. There was no pop-up window for free reading. This trip went smoothly. I wonder how the situation is at the Demon Island. After informing Emperor Star Maiden's mother, Wang Xian did not linger in the imperial court for long and flew towards the Demon Island. After flying and transit, Wang Xian and the rest arrived at Beckoning Moon Planet after more than 10 hours. Master, I'll return to Beichuan Sect first, Bei Shuang said to Wang Xian before flying towards Beichuan Sect's planet. Wang Xian headed straight for the planet where the Dragon Palace was located at the northern border. When Wang Xian arrived at the planet where the Dragon Palace was located, he saw a few hundred people hovering around the Dragon Peak. He raised an eyebrow and flew over immediately. The Dragon King is here. The Dragon King is here. Let's go and thank the Dragon King. Beside the Dragon Peak, a few hundred people noticed Wang Xian flying over and greeted him immediately. This is? Ancient God Dynasty. Wang Xian raised an eyebrow as he looked at their attire. He swept his gaze across over 200 people, including 2 8th-level Immortal King Realm experts. Greetings, Dragon King. We finally meet the Dragon King. Thank you for your help in the recent battle. The Ancient God Dynasty is extremely grateful. The group of people flew over and thanked Wang Xian immediately. I've been away for a few days and don't know what happened on the Demon Island. Wang Xian raised an eyebrow as he looked at the officials of the Dragon Palace in front of the Dragon Peak. Dragon King, after you left, the experts of the Dragon Palace also returned to the Dragon Palace to improve their strength. Another battle broke out on the Demon Island. This time, the scale of the battle wasn't huge. However, the Ancient God Dynasty was unlucky and encountered 6 8th-level Immortal King Realm Abyss species. They asked for help from us. Prime Minister Turtle sent the Firehammer clan of the Dragon Palace to control the Dragon Peak and sent a group of experts to help them defend against this crisis. A civil official walked over immediately and whispered to Wang Xian. This time, it's all thanks to the Dragon Palace. Otherwise, the Ancient God Dynasty would have suffered a huge loss. If the Dragon King has any orders in the future, the Ancient God Dynasty will not decline. Beside him, a Laozu from the Ancient God Dynasty bowed to Wang Xian with a smile. Hee, it's just a small matter. I just came back from outside and there are some things that I have yet to deal with. Let's meet up again after this war is over. Upon hearing his words, Wang Xian shook his head nonchalantly. All right, then we shall not disturb the Dragon King any further. After the Abyss battle, the Ancient Gods Dynasty will express our gratitude to the Dragon Palace. The people of the Ancient God Dynasty nodded. Wang Xian chuckled and flew straight to the Dragon Palace on a planet nearby. The Dragon Palace is really loyal. They helped us so much, but the Dragon King didn't even take it to heart. That's right. Fortunately, the Dragon Palace appeared in the Battle of the Abyss this time. That Dragon King is really free and easy. In the future, our disciples of the Ancient God Dynasty should be more respectful when we meet people from the Dragon Palace. Seeing Wang Xian leaving just like that, the people from the Ancient God Dynasty sighed. The Dragon Palace had helped a lot this time. Although the Ancient Gods Dynasty had given them enough abyssal corpses, the Ancient Gods Dynasty still owed them a favor. Buzz. Prime Minister Turtle, there was another war while I was away? In the main Dragon Palace, Wang Xian went to the Dragon Transformation Pool immediately after he returned. Prime Minister Turtle was standing by the side. Dragon King, a war broke out on the 4th day after you left. The Ancient Gods Dynasty met with some trouble. They gave us some abyssal corpses, and I sent someone to help them with the Dragon Peak. However, as the Heavenly Formation and most of the members are increasing their strength, we were not able to hunt down the 8th Order Immortal King abyssal species. Prime Minister Turtle said. How's the situation at the Devil Island? Wang Xian asked. Currently, there's nothing much. However, there's another 9th Order Immortal King abyssal species over at the Moon Sect. The situation isn't looking good. The strength of the Moon Sect isn't the strongest among the other sections. They don't have any pinnacle Immortal King experts. Based on the information we received, there should be 4 9th Order God King experts in the Moon Sect. Prime Minister Turtle said. Get roving demon and Mao Zedong over. Wang Xian raised his eyebrows slightly as he gave his order. Yes, Dragon King. Prime Minister Turtle nodded and flew towards the back. Wang Xian stood in front of the dragon transformation pool and looked at the experts of the Dragon Palace. Ao Fenghuang, Ao Jian, Roving Heavens, Ao Qi, and the rest were increasing their strength. In the middle of the pool was a strange-shaped heavenly formation. The heavenly formation was advancing towards the 9th Order Immortal King realm, while Ao Fenghuang, Ao Jian, and the rest were advancing to the 8th Order Immortal King realm. After this, the Dragon Palace could increase the strength of 1 9th Order Immortal King realm expert and 8 8th Order Immortal King realm experts. However, Wang Xian waved his hand, and a spatial ring appeared in his hand. Within the spatial ring, there were large amounts of resources. These resources can increase the strength of 4 9th Order Immortal King realm experts. Wang Xian revealed a smile. He was prepared to increase the strength of Roving Demon, Mao Zedong, Ao Xingmu, and Ao Fenghuang. After the increase, the Dragon Palace would have 6 9th Order Immortal King realm experts. If the Moon Sect was as strong as Prime Minister Turtle said, they wouldn't be a match for the Dragon Palace. Dragon King. Very quickly, Roving Demon and Mao Zedong rushed over. Increase the strength of the two of you first. Wang Xian looked at them and said, The two of them already had the strength of an 8th Order Immortal King realm expert. Hence, they did not receive the increase. Hearing Wang Xian's words, they were slightly taken aback. Not bad, I managed to get some resources. Both of you sit here. Wang Xian chuckled and poured a large amount of resources into his mouth, converting them into dragon energy. Subsequently, Wang Xian transferred the dragon energy to Roving Demon and Mao Zedong. Boom boom. Half an hour later, Roving Demon and Mao Zedong successfully achieved a breakthrough. After the breakthrough, the aura of the two of them was even more majestic. Dragon Palace, Roving Demon, Mao Zedong, and the rest are getting stronger. Next, we will be able to get more Abyss-type corpses. Prime Minister Turtle said excitedly. I wonder how long this war will last. The Imperial Court will start a war soon. This is also an opportunity for the Dragon Palace. However, opportunity and danger coexist. Wang Xian murmured, and his eyes flickered. Now, he hoped that the war on the Devil Island would last longer. The longer the war lasted, the more resources the Dragon Palace would obtain, and the faster the Dragon Palace's strength would increase. If the Devil Island was breached, it would be troublesome. With a thought, he came to the front of the Dragon Throne. Chapter 2656, Celestial Slaying Gourd. Wang Xian came to the Dragon Throne and looked at the gourd wrapped around by the boundless wood and nirvana lightning tree branches. He waved his arm and the Celestial Slaying Gourd came before him. The 2 fist-sized Celestial Slaying Gourds looked small with 3 strands of sword chi surrounding it. This treasure is similar to the God's Striking Branch. It's a special weapon, but this Celestial Slaying Gourd is obviously of a much higher grade than the God's Striking Branch. Wang Xian murmured as he grabbed the Celestial Slaying Gourd. The entire gourd separated from the progenitor tree. He looked at the open lid and closed it. The moment he closed the lid, the 3 strands of sword chi entered the Celestial Slaying Gourd. Wang Xian sensed it and realized that as long as he willed it to open the Celestial Slaying Gourd, the 3 strands of sword chi would be able to unleash a terrifying attack. This attack would be comparable to an attack from an undying God King Pinnacle expert. After releasing the 3 strands of sword chi, the Celestial Slaying Gourd lost its effect and continued to accumulate. At the current speed, I can accumulate 3 strands of sword chi in a month. This Celestial Slaying Gourd seems to have its own consciousness, but for some reason, the soul within has fallen silent and is now awakening. I wonder what kind of power the awakened Celestial Slaying Gourd will possess. He murmured and placed the Celestial Slaying Gourd on the progenitor tree. He could summon it from the progenitor tree at any time, and it was considered a powerful treasure. At that time, even the elders of Imperial Dynasty wanted to bid for it. In the next 10 days, the evil demon island was peaceful and there was no war. However, at the center of the northern front, The people from Crescent Sect stood solemnly in front of the abyss. Another rank 9 Undying God King Abyss species had appeared. From 2 at the start, there were now 4. The pressure on the northern front was increasing. The other forces also received the news and their faces were solemn. It had been almost 2 months since the war on the northern front began. In the past 2 months, there had been several great battles, and countless abyss species had been killed. At the same time, the humans at the northern front also suffered heavy losses. Rumble, rumble, rumble. In these 10 days, Tianzhen and the others finally completed their breakthroughs. Waves of majestic aura filled the entire Dragon Palace. Powerful members of Dragon Palace lined up in a row. Dragon Palace currently had over 400,000 members, among which there were close to 30,000 Undying Kings. At the front, other than Heavenly Formation, there were Roving Yao, Mao Zisen, Ao Xingmu, and Ao Fenghuang. The 4 of them also had the battle prowess of a 9th Order Undying God King. As for the members at the 8th step, there were a total of 11, and there were more at the 7th step, more than 70 of them. Such strength is enough to deal with everything that comes next. Wang Xian smiled. He was very satisfied with the current strength of the Dragon Palace. Tianzhen continued to improve the strength of Dragon Peak. The rest of the members of Dragon Palace will wait here for further orders. Wang Xian ordered, "It's Dragon King." The disciples of Dragon Palace immediately responded. The Dragon Peak had a God King Pinnacle God Tree, so according to the Heaven Array, the limit of the Dragon Peak as a war machine was Undying God King Pinnacle. This was more than enough for the Dragon Palace. Dragon King, they sent an invitation letter last month, saying that they want to invite the experts of our Dragon Palace to the Moon Inviting Planet for a discussion. When the members of Dragon Palace dispersed, Prime Minister Turtle came over and reported. They want to invite the Dragon Palace over for a discussion? Wang Xian raised an eyebrow. Yes, there are currently 4 rank 9 Immortal King Abyss species gathered at the Moon Inviting Planet. Moon Inviting Planet also felt some pressure. This discussion should be about the upcoming war. Prime Minister Turtle said. Let's go and take a look. Wang Xian pondered for a moment before nodding his head. He also wanted to know what the plan for the northern front was. Back at the Demon Island, Tianzhen led the Firehammer tribe to improve the Dragon Peak. After Tianzhen and the rest of the Firehammer tribe improved, it would not take long for the Dragon Peak to kill rank 9 Immortal King Abyss species. Wang Xian brought Prime Minister Turtle and flew towards the beckoning moon planet. Dragon King, this way please. When Wang Xian and the rest arrived at the Moon Inviting Planet, the 2 God King experts from the Moon Inviting Planet welcomed them. Wang Xian nodded his head and flew towards a palace below. Dragon King is here. Dragon King. Master. When Wang Xian entered the main hall, there were already a few hundred people inside. Dragon Python Group, Beichuan Sect, Ancient God Dynasty, Moon Sect, and some experts from other smaller forces. When the experts from the forces saw Wang Xian, they greeted him warmly. Bei Shuang also walked over. Wang Xian nodded his head at the crowd. Dragon King, take a seat. In the middle, a dozen people were seated. All of them were the leaders of their respective forces. The leading old man looked at Wang Xian and gestured to him. Wang Xian nodded his head and sat down. Prime Minister Turtle and Bei Shuang stood beside him. Since the Dragon King is here, let's talk about the current situation on the Demon Island. The leading expert from the Moon Sect looked around and spoke with a solemn tone. As soon as he finished his sentence, the surrounding people revealed a solemn expression. For the upcoming battlefront, we can't be scattered like this. I believe everyone is aware of the current situation. The reason why I gathered everyone here is to discuss the upcoming war. We came up with an idea last month. We will gather all our forces and fight as one. The leading old man from the Moon Sect said. The rest of the experts from the other forces were deep in thought. Sect leader Yu, we agree with your idea. However, we hope that the armies of the various forces can be mixed together and fight as one. Sect leader Bei Chuan said after a moment of silence. Gathering all the armies together and then spreading them out would prevent the Moon Sect from giving up on a certain region or ordering the disciples of other forces to guard their own region. That's fine. Since we are united, we are one. The northern battlefront is also one. We will advance and retreat together. Even if we have to sacrifice some of our forces, all the forces will bear the losses. Sect leader Yu nodded his head. That's fine. We also want to protect our homeland. Sect leader Bei Chuan nodded his head and looked at the other forces. Agreed. Agreed. The Dragon Python group and Ancient God Dynasty also nodded their heads. Sect leader Yu smiled and nodded his head. Suddenly he looked at Wang Xian. Dragon King, can you send the forces from Dragon Peak over as well? Chapter 2657. Exciting pop-up window for free reading. Wang Xian was taken aback when he heard the Moon Sect leader. The surrounding forces also slightly knitted their brows as they looked over with flickering eyes. Getting Dragon Palace to send Long Feng over to guard the northern line of defense? Dragon Palace must have obtained quite a number of abyssal crystals and resources in the previous few wars. Dragon Python Group even gave Dragon Palace 10% of their resources. Dragon Palace should join in as well. One of the Moon Sect elders spoke up faintly after the Moon Sect master spoke. You want Dragon Palace to send someone to guard with you? I'm sorry, Dragon Palace isn't a force on the demonic island. The northern line isn't our territory either. Wang Xian looked at the few people from the Moonlight Sect and shook his head in rejection. What a joke. Wang Xian couldn't possibly let Dragon Palace get involved in this war. There was no planet without Dragon Palace on the northern line. How could he defend it? Dragon King, you guys have obtained so many abyssal crystals here. Now that danger is approaching, you want to escape? How can there be such a good thing in this world? However, just as Wang Xian finished his sentence, Yu Xingguang, who was on the right, berated with a cold expression. Ever since Gu Qi's Moon Bay was snatched away by Dragon King during the previous exchange and he was reprimanded by the Ice Goddess, he had lost a lot of face. He had always kept this grudge in his heart. Dragon King isn't a force on the northern line after all. You don't have the responsibility and obligation to guard this place for us. An authoritative figure from Dragon Python Group looked at Yu Xing and said hesitantly, Indeed. We are already grateful that Dragon King is willing to help us. Even if we are facing a great crisis, we can't drag others into this. Moreover, Dragon Palace has helped us before. Dragon King and the rest can decide the situation. We are already grateful that Dragon Palace is willing to help us. Experts from Beichuan Sect and Ancient Gods Dynasty chimed in as soon as the authoritative figure from Dragon Python Group finished his sentence. The three forces all owed the Dragon Palace a huge favor. At this time, they naturally had to speak up for Dragon Palace. If they didn't speak up now, they would be ingrates. When Yu Xing saw the group of experts speaking out, her expression changed slightly, not daring to interrupt anymore. In front of them, Sect Master Yu frowned slightly. He looked at the Dragon Python Corporation's Beichuan Sect and the Ancient God Dynasty. Since all the forces have said so, the Dragon Palace is free to decide. The Sect Master of the Moon Sect said expressionlessly, I'll say this up front. If the northern line really can't hold or if there's a need to fight to the death, don't take our Dragon Palace into consideration. We'll continue to act, but if we can't resist, we'll leave immediately. Wang Xian looked at them and spoke directly. Once he encountered danger, he would leave this place without hesitation and stay far away from danger. All right. The Moon Sect Master frowned slightly and nodded. On the side, some of the Moon Realm experts were slightly dissatisfied. Next, let's discuss the army's composition. Sect Master Yu said. Next, it was time to discuss the matter of fighting together. The disciples of the various forces gathered together and were responsible for guarding the various battlefronts. Moreover, the various forces formed a support legion. If the abyssal species were strong enough to exceed their resistance range, they would directly send people to support them. The various forces discussed for an hour or so. Dragon King, we'll thank you after the Battle of the Abyss. After the discussion, Wang Xian and the rest flew out of the beckoning moon planet. The experts from the Dragon Python Group, North Stream Sect, and Ancient God Dynasty said to Wang Xian politely. Alright. Wang Xian nodded at them before flying towards the Dragon Peak. Sect Master, the Dragon Palace is obviously taking the opportunity to earn the abyssal crystals. They don't want to take any risks. They're too despicable and cunning. In the Palace of the Moon Sect, an elder couldn't help but comment when he saw the various forces leaving. Yes, Sect Master. Moreover, the Ice Goddess didn't give us any face. Now, enough. Yu Xingguang spoke, but he was interrupted by the Moon Sect Master before he could finish his sentence. The rest immediately shut their mouths and didn't dare to continue their discussion. If the Dragon King isn't willing, North Stream Sect, Dragon Python Group, and Ancient God Dynasty owe the Dragon Palace a favor. We can't force it. Even if we know that the other party is after the abyssal crystals, the Dragon Palace can still reduce our losses. There's no need to make things difficult for the Dragon Palace. We can't do anything about it if the other party leaves. The Moon Sect Master waved his hand plainly. Prepare for the alliance. Yes. The experts from the Moon Sect nodded their heads. Other than Yu Xingguang, an elder, and a few deity kings who were dissatisfied with the Dragon Palace, most of the experts didn't have much of an opinion. Just as the Sect Master had said, they couldn't force it. Dragon King. How is it? How long will it take for the Dragon Peak to complete the transformation? At the same time, Wang Xian rushed to the Dragon Peak and asked Sky Formation with a smile. Although the Dragon Peak has a foundation, it will still take 7 to 8 days. Sky Formation replied. 7 to 8 days. We should be able to make it in time. Wang Xian nodded his head and looked at the abyss ahead. From time to time, roars could be heard from the abyss as countless abyssal species gathered. Based on the gathering speed of the abyssal species, a war would break out in 10 days at most. In the next few days, the entire northern front was reorganized. Compared to the past, the various legions were assigned more rationally to guard the planets. Moreover, in order to provide support as soon as possible, the Northern Front set up a teleportation formation for war to provide support in time. It could be said that the alliance at the Northern Front could at least reduce their losses by half. Naturally, the Dragon Palace didn't participate. Wang Xian stayed on the Dragon Peak for the past few days and learned some of Sky Formation's spirit arrays. Master, the Northern Front is preparing to launch an alliance attack tomorrow morning. On the afternoon of the 8th day, Wang Xian received a message from Bei Shuang. Is the war about to break out? Wang Xian mumbled to himself as he looked ahead with a smile. The Dragon Peak had been remodeled a few hours ago. After the remodeling, the power of the Dragon Peak had increased by more than 10 times. Get ready. The war is starting tomorrow. Let's see if we can get a big haul. Wang Xian joked with a smile. All right, Dragon King. Let the forces at the Northern Front witness our strength too. Sky Formation nodded confidently. Wang Xian smiled and looked inside the Dragon Peak. The enhancement this time was mainly to enhance the strength of the Heaven's Eye Arrow unit and Mysterious Demon, followed by the Starwood Dragon species. On the Arrow platform below, there were tens of thousands of Immortal God King archers. Next, it was time to show their true strength. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.